Moonth comes from moon. The moon, of course, as it goes around, fundamentally affects our perception of time. We have moonths because of the moon. It's a monarchy. It's a hybrid monarchy. And one of the major ways they control us, seems to be a modus operandi again, is money, controlled by the Rothschilds. Now, I saw a film some years ago called They Live. It was a B-movie, and it was not just produced and directed. He wrote the music, every bloody thing, by a guy called John Carpenter. You follow John Carpenter's movie-making history, and you will see that he bloody knows a great deal. He'll say he doesn't, he bloody knows a great deal. He does movies and horrors and Satanism and all this stuff, and he did this movie called They Live, and I thought it was very symbolically accurate when I first saw it, but now it's unbelievably accurate. For those who haven't seen it, you go on YouTube, put John Carpenter They Live in, you can see it in sections still today.
What's your problem? I said, what's your problem?
How are you today, sir?
Okay, how's it going?
Fine, thank you. Thank you, sir. Here you are, sir. Thank you. Hey, buddy. You gonna pay for that or what? Look, buddy, I don't want no hassle today. Either pay for it or put it back.
Sleep. 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 Sleep.
Did Bob make you go to John and Mary Ellen's last night?
I was shocked. She served blue corn tortillas. It's so dated.
So depressed. I don't know what to do. Hey, go for it, man. It's easy for you to say you got the promotion. Look, it'll come, all right? Just don't worry about it.
The feeling is definitely there. It's a new morning in America. Fresh, vital. The old cynicism is gone. We have faith in our leaders. We're optimistic as to what becomes of it all. It really boils down to our ability to accept. We don't need pessimism. There are no limits.
It figures it would be something like this.
Our ideal of vision.
Excuse me.
Just survive.
You know, you look like your head fell in the cheese dip back in 1957. You're okay. This one, real fucking ugly. You see, I take these glasses off, she looks like a regular person, doesn't she, huh? Put them back on, formaldehyde face. That's what we got.
That's enough out of you. You get out or I call the cops.
Call the cops? You know what you need? You need a Brazilian plastic surgeon.
I've got one that can see.
He's a tall, Caucasian male, doesn't appear armed, wearing sunglasses.
I don't like this one bit.
Masters! What do these things want, and why are they here?
You still don't get it, do you, boy?
They have recruited the rich and the powerful.
They're running the whole show.
Wake up! They're all about you, all around you. Blinded us to the truth.
Take a look.
They are safe as long as they are not discovered.
I don't know what they are or where they came from, but we gotta stop them.
Stay away from me.
Put these on.
They have us. Look at them. They're everywhere. Our owners.
We have no other choice.
I don't like this one bit.
Leave it alone, man. It ain't none of my business. Ain't none of yours.
We have been lulled into a trance.
Listen to what I'm saying to you. We're in trouble. The whole world's in trouble.
Control us.
They're sending some kind of signals out of TV sets.
I've got one that can see.
Mama don't like tattletale.
Now we start spilling some blood.
Let's go!
But
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
The story was this. It was set in the future, but the future was about now, because it was a few years ago now. There was a massive economic depression. And this guy comes along with his tools on his back. He's walking around America trying to find a job in the building industry. He gets a short-term one at this building site. At the end of the day, one of the other builders said, do you have anywhere to stay? Because there's a massive economic depression. People are living in tent cities and corrugated iron makeshift villages on wasteland. Exactly what's happening in America now, incidentally. And he's now having nowhere to stay. So anyway, he goes back with him to stay at this corrugated iron tent little village thing on the wasteland. And he starts getting interested because there's things going on across the church, across the way, that seem very strange to him. And the villagers mocked up some kind of television in a kind of Heath Robinson way. And when they're watching the television, suddenly it breaks out of the main channel, and there's just a man's face on the screen saying, they're here, they're controlling, you don't know, all that stuff. And then there's a police state raid on this village and on this church, and they bring the bulldozers in and the police and the helicopters, and they destroy the village. And this builder guy gets away, and he comes back, and he goes snooping around the church, and he finds some cardboard boxes. And he grabs one and runs into a back passage behind buildings, and he opens the box wondering what's in it, and there's sunglasses. And he's disappointed. Sunglasses? What are all these sunglasses in a church for? So he thinks, oh, I'll have one. He puts them in his pocket, throws the others away, walks off into the street. And that's where we pick him up. When he puts these sunglasses on, suddenly the world looks very, very different. It looks like this. He starts to realize that there are people that look human to his naked eye that are anything but human when he puts these sunglasses on. Not only that, where he's seeing adverts with his naked eye, drink Coca-Cola, holiday in Jamaica or whatever, what he can see with the glasses on is subliminal instructions: conform, stay asleep, consume, watch TV, submit, and all the rest of it. All on levels that he can't see. Other people who haven't got the glasses, they're interacting with various people, but he can see are not human. He looks at the president making a speech. He's not human when he looks at him through the glasses. Same with a number of people in law enforcement. Newsreaders were the same. And where it goes is that at the end of the movie, they realize that the reason that people cannot see without the glasses, what he can see, is because there is a frequency being transmitted from the top of a television tower, which is preventing the population seeing what they would normally see if that frequency wasn't being broadcast. And what they do is they break the broadcast frequency, they stop the dish working, and people are sitting in bars, and suddenly they can now see the guy next to them's not human. What a bloody laugh that would be, wouldn't it? And there's people out having sex and then realizing, hey, I didn't really come home with you. Tell you the funny thing, a lady in Canada told me this story happened to her. I spoke in Canada years ago now, and I met this lady. She was a power-dressing businesswoman, you know, very of this world. But she'd had this experience, and she was shaking when she told me the story. She said that she got this boyfriend who had a dark side, she said, that he knew about and he was trying to deal with. And they come home, and they go into the bedroom, and there was a shelf at top of her bed, and standing there was the book, The Biggest Secret, which for the first time I introduced this reptilian thing. He then goes crazy, she said, when he sees the book. And he got her to throw it away. Oh, what are you reading that rubbish for? And all that stuff. Mind you, he's not alone in that. And then they start having sex. And he's kind of on top of her. And she said, I had my hand on the bottom of his back. And suddenly he started getting very, very violent. And I started getting frightened. And she said, then my hand was pushed back. And she said, I looked over his shoulder. And my hand had been pushed back by a tail. He sprouted a tail. She said, I screamed, threw him off. And for a second or two in front of me, he was totally reptilian, and then morphed back to human and ran out of the house, never seen him again. But these bizarre stories that are bizarre to our reality, I've been told all over the world by people from all different walks of life, people in the Swiss banking system and all that stuff, all different kinds of people. So this frequency is that equivalent of that broadcast dish on the top of that TV tower, which was stopping those people in that movie seeing what they would normally see. Now, when we bring this down into the reptilian world, well, it gets interesting, because we live in a society that is an expression of the reptilian brain. This man, Carl Sagan, a cosmologist, very famous, he wrote a book called The Dragons of Eden, in which he was looking at the effect of reptilian genetics on human behavior. And he said, you cannot, in effect, understand human behavior without understanding the reptilian aspect of all this. And we come back to what I mentioned earlier. This part of the brain, known as the reptilian brain or the R complex to scientists, is so fundamental to human behavior, as I'll explain in a second. And I'm saying that this genetic manipulation that the ancients talk about all over the world by the serpent gods locked us in to the moon matrix through the reptilian brain, because it connects into the hive mind of the reptilian species in the moon. And this, like I say, fundamentally expresses itself as the world that we live in. And I'll come to that more in a second. Now, in the 60s, around that time, there's a guy called Carlos Castaneda who wrote books based on the teachings of a Central American shaman source called Don Juan Matus. Some people say Don Juan didn't exist. Some people say he did. Whatever, the words that were put into his mouth are just absolutely extraordinarily accurate. And I read this quote coming up after I put this stuff together that I've been talking about. This is what Don Juan Matus said in these books. We have a predator that came from the depth of the cosmos and took over the rule of our lives. Human beings and are its prisoners. The predator is our lord and master. It has rendered us docile, helpless. If we want to protest, it suppresses our protest. If we want to act independently, it demands that we don't do so. Indeed, we are held prisoner. They took us over because we are food to them, and they squeeze us mercilessly because we are their sustenance. Just as we rear chickens in coops, the predators rear us in human coops, human eros. Therefore, their food is always available to them. Think for a moment and tell me how you would explain the contradictions between the intelligence of man the engineer and the stupidity of his systems of belief, or the stupidity of his contradictory behavior. Sorcerers believe that the predators have given us our systems of beliefs, our ideas of good and evil, our social mores. They are the ones who set up our dreams of success or failure. They have given us covetousness, greed, and cowardice. It is the predator who makes us complacent, routinary, and egomaniacal. In order to keep us obedient and meek and weak, the predators have engaged themselves in a stupendous maneuver. Stupendous, of course, from the point of view of a fighting strategist, a horrendous maneuver from the point of those who suffer it. They gave us their mind. The predator's mind is baroque, contradictory, morose, filled with the fear of being discovered any minute now. They gave us their mind. And that is how I suggest they've done it. We are connected if we operate within the hive reptilian brain mind. We are operating on a collective mind, which is pouring out this constant sense of anxiety, fear, worry, stress, because that keeps us within the confines of the frequency range of the moon matrix, i.e. attached to it, and it also elicits the emotional, low vibrational energy on which they feed. Behind all these pyramids of banking, medicine, religion, business, politics is the reptilian hive mind. It connects into all these control systems that run our society. And now let's look at the character traits of the reptilian brain. Is this our society or what? This is mainstream science, by the way. From the reptilian brain, we get primitive and emotional responses, cold-blooded behavior, lack of empathy, if not balanced out by other parts of the brain, and territoriality. This is mine. Get out. A desire to control, an obsession with hierarchical structures of power. Aggression, might is right, winner takes all. And it is dominating our sense of reality and our reaction and responses to events and other people. This is the word that sums up the reptilian brain: survive, survival. It doesn't think, it hasn't got the ability to think, it reacts. That's why it can react so fast. There are good things about it. When you're driving along in your car and someone walks in front of you, what rams the anchors on immediately, without thinking, instantly, is the reptilian brain. But when that starts to impact on other parts of our behavior and our lives, then it becomes a very negative thing indeed. It is the reptilian brain and its fear of not surviving. It's always scanning the environment for threats. Not just physical threats, but threats on other levels of our experience, which I'll explain in a second. And therefore, the targeting of the reptilian brain and the constant triggering of it is what gives us this constant fear, this constant stress, worry that goes on in all areas of our lives. Will I meet the rent at the end of the month? Oh my God, will I lose my job? Oh my God. And the more that we can be put in fear, here we go, the more we operate in the reptilian brain. That's why we're constantly given reasons to fear and to be anxious. Be afraid, be very afraid. The big bad monster's coming as soon as we've invented him. And when he's gone, we'll have another. Terrorism, ah! Global warming, ah! Swine flu, ah! The economy, ah! I don't look like her, ah! I don't look like him, ah! Constant reasons to fear. Locking us into the control system. And it's not just physical survival. It's survival of status, power, of reputation, superiority, intellectual preeminence. Acquiescence to a hierarchy and authority is another aspect of the reptilian brain. I know my place. And you know, when you put information out that challenges the status quo view of scientists and academics, they react vehemently. Why? Because the reptilian brain's kicked in. Survival of their reputation, survival of their belief system. When you put out information that challenges people's religious beliefs, not you're saying you're wrong and all that stuff, you're just saying here's some information, which if it's true, that can't be right. They vehemently attack you. Why? Because the reptilian brain's kicked in, because the belief system is in danger of not surviving. Fear of money. Money is fundamentally reptilian brain. Two polarities of it. One, fear of not surviving, fear of not having enough to pay the rent, to eat. And on the other hand, you can get so locked into the reptilian brain, and this is what the hybrid bloodlines do, that you equate survival with far more than is necessary to survive. So you get people, especially in these bloodline networks, who have got more money than they could spend in 100 lifetimes, but they get up with the sun every morning to go and earn bloody more. It's an obsession, it's an addiction, and it's connected to the reptilian brain, which fundamentally drives our perception of reality. Don Juan Matus again. I know that even now, though you never have suffered hunger, you have food anxiety, which is none other than the anxiety of the predator who fears that at any moment now its maneuver is going to be uncovered and food is going to be denied. Through the mind, which after all is their mind, the predators inject into the lives of human beings whatever is convenient for them, and they ensure in this manner a degree of security to act as a buffer against this fear. Sorcerers of ancient Mexico reasoned, here we go, that man must have been a complete being at one point, with stupendous insights, feats of awareness that are mythological legends nowadays. And then everything seems to disappear, and we now have a sedated man. What I'm saying is, what we have against us is not a simple predator. It is very smart and organized. It follows a methodical system to render us useless. Modus operandi, done it many times. Man, the magical being that he is destined to be, he's no longer magical. He is an average piece of meat. There are no more dreams for man, but the dreams of an animal who is being raised to be a piece of meat, trite, conventional, imbecilic. This is what becoming conscious brings us out of. Control of perception is the bottom line of this conspiracy. You know, I'm all for exposing 9/11s and banking scams and engineered wars, but this is the bottom line, and if we miss it, then we're going round in circles and we'll get nowhere.